We're back on the 67 project here this morning, and I'm getting started early. As you can see here on the ground, I'm going to be doing the front end of the 67. I'm going to be putting the frame rails in place, aprons, rad support, and then do the torque boxes so all that's strong. I'm going to put the cross member up in place too. I'll test fit everything before I weld any of the frame rails in place, but just to show you here where I'm at, I went ahead and prepped all the metal. I took off the sway bar brackets because that gets rid of, you get rid of those with the new Rod and Custom kit. I have the rear aprons there, and I have the rad support. Torque boxes are sitting over there. The Rod and Custom cross members in the box over there. I'll bring that out in a minute. But I went ahead and welded in that upper cowl. I have the rear apron pieces there that connect it to the cowl. So what I'm going to do, set my rails up into the floor supports there, hang them out to the front, prop up the front of the rails on stands to the heights where I need them, which is real critical on your car. If you don't have any of these measurements, I don't weld anything in place because you could have your whole front end off. So there's a couple points of measurements where I'm going to be going off of the front of the rail, middle of the rail, and the back of the rail at the floor support, because those right now you can move them up and down because they're just welded into the floor there. So you want to set all that right, and your side to side, because your front end could be cocked one way or the other. So there's measurements that you can do, cross measurements. You'll see me bust out the tape measure, but just measure everything with the entire car. You can't over measure. So I'm going to set all that in place, vice grip it together, screw it together, set the rear aprons in place, and I also got the Mustangs to Fear front engine bay panels. I'll put these in place. These are the tops that connect rad support to the rear apron. I'll set them in place, and then once I know everything's measured out right, I'll weld the frame rails in, rad support, weld that stuff in. Then I'll do torque boxes, so that will really unify all of the front end. It ties together your rocker, your toe board, frame rail. It welds all that together, so then your front end's pretty solid and it's not going to move on you. So then I can go ahead and then weld in my rear aprons and the Mustangs to Fear front aprons, and then pretty much the front end will be all done. So I got the GoPro ready. Just going to set up everything in place, screw it together, and when I come back here to let you know, I'll have the whole front end together and then we'll go over it there. But front end's going to fly together, so I'm going to get started. at the moment I have all the front end metal screwed in place, measured out to where I need it to be. You can see from that GoPro footage, it was only like 18 minutes that it took me to set the stuff in place, but really it took me probably 2 hours after that to line everything up correctly, to get my measurements to spec out right, frame rail heights, distance out to the frame rail edges, and rad support height, and distance out from the cowl for all my fender locations, side to side, cross. I mean, there's just a bunch of places that you should be measuring to make sure that your front end is squared up. But I have it at the point where it is square with the body of the car. Everything's where it needs to be, and everything's drawn tight. Now I'm going to go ahead and weld in the frame rails to the floor supports all around on both sides, and I'm going to weld the rad support to the frame rails all around, and I'm also going to weld in these extensions on the cowl piece because I know that they're good. And at the moment I'm not going to weld in these top rails or the rear aprons because I want to pull those back out after I test fit the engine bay panels, because they are trimmed to fit around the outside. I got a bead roll on these panels here to get that flange on here like you see on these, to let my engine bay panels overlap for whenever I weld them. So I'm going to weld in the frame rails to get them where they need to be, and then after that I'm actually going to weld in the torque boxes because I know my rails are where they need to be. I want to weld in my torque boxes while I'm at it because that will tie everything together. Then I know I don't have to worry about anything moving from that point, and then I'll test fit my engine bay panels, trim them up, and then weld them in place. So we're going to see how far I can get today. I should have the frame rails welded and the torque boxes all welded in, and then be working on the front engine bay panels by the end of the day. So I'm going to set up the GoPro and weld the frame rails in, and then onto the torque boxes. Okay, so I'm at the end of the day. Everything I got done is what I expected to get done. I'm at a good point here. The next video is going to be setting the rod and custom front cross member in with the top brackets, weld all that in, and then I should be able to make a lot of progress on these engine bay covers. Should be able to get them at least tacked in, if not welded in completely. But where I'm at, everything that you see is welded in aside from these top rails and the rear aprons, because I got to roll them like I described in the beginning. Torque boxes are all welded in fully, inside and out, and I went ahead and welded the floor pan the whole way across on the inside. So also there's a lot of stuff that you don't see that I do that I'm just, you know, just to keep it moving. There's a lot to this, a lot more than what you see in the videos. So if I make it look easy, it's not easy. There's a lot that goes on that you don't see. I did have the cross member fitted in. That's where you see the grinds there, just to mark off where it's going to fit in. So I actually fit that before I welded the rails in too, to help me guide that, to make sure that my gap was right in between my rails, so it snugged up tight against that new cross member. But other than that, everything's going pretty smooth. Hope everyone's enjoying the videos. I'm enjoying making them. It's good to be back making a bunch of videos. So like I said, the next one's going to be welding that cross member in and trying to finish up the engine bay. So thanks for watching this video and all the videos. I'm looking forward to putting out a bunch more on this car, and we'll see you in the next video.